My name is Emmanuel. I am the head of education services here at Choma Museum. So my job is to provide information to the public who visit the museum about our exhibitions and our programs and services to give them an experience of our collections.
Tell me about the content of the museum's artifacts and stuff like that.
Choma Museum is a museum that runs 4 thematic areas. 1, the lifestyle, the material culture of the Batonga people. Secondly, we are a history museum focusing on the history, the political history of Zambia. Thirdly, we are looking at crafts development and also outreach programs. So we are a museum and a craft center. So our collection is basically material aspects of the Batonga people. So we've got objects and artifacts and specimens looking at various ways of life of the Batonga people.
Now, I'm a stranger from Canada. I know there's 72 tribes in Zambia. How would you describe the Tonga people? Who are they?
The Batonga people are basically living in the southern part of Zambia. We have close to 33 chiefdoms, ranging from Mazabuka to Livingstone. The Batongas are living in the valley, the Zambezi Valley, and on the plateau where we are right now, and also in the Namala districts. So these Tongas, whilst we are all Tongas, we may have a lot of similarities and also differences. The dialects, for instance, the pronunciation of words, the type of foods we eat, and certain values, norms, rituals, and ways of life. So we have commonalities, and we may differ depending on whether we are coming from Namala, or we are coming from Batonga Ilas, or from the valley, the Ways, or from the Tonga Plateau. So we are in the southern province of Zambia. So we are all Tongas, but we differ depending on whether we're coming from the valley or from the plateau or from the plains in the Namara district areas.
Now, the Tonga people are very strong people because you've gone through so much challenges since the dam was built and so forth. What challenges do the Tonga people face today?
Tonga people are generally pastoralists and farmers. They are also hunters and gatherers. They depend on the river, they depend on the environment for their sustainability. They also depend on the animals that they rear domestically, like the cows, goats, and chickens. So the basic challenges now are merely influenced by the climatic factors. As you know, we are running through a drought. We never had good rains last year, so our crops failed. So the difficulty we have now is finding grazing lands for our animals, food for our people, and water both for domestic use and also to sustain the livelihood of our pastoral heads of various animals. So the major challenge now is environmental challenges.
What is the government doing to help the Tonga people?
The government is responding in various ways through the municipal councils in the districts. The government has what it calls the Constituency Development Fund, where people can access money to sink boreholes, for instance, to fight animal disease, to construct or rehabilitate existing dams, and also provide loans to small-scale farmers to procure alternative sources of energy to replenish water which is not easily accessible right now. So those are a few ways in which the government is responding so that the people can remain resilient, the people can be able to sustain their lives, the people can have some hope that all is not lost. The drought is an act of God. At the same time, it is also a consequence of human carelessness on sustainable environmental practices. So the government is also promoting awareness on sustainable use of the environmental resources. So there's a lot of training which is taking place at various levels. They're sending agriculture extension officers, environmental experts to remind the people the importance of sustainable use of the environment. Also, the government is encouraging traditional leaders and also indigenous knowledge enthusiasts to recollect and to revisit the indigenous ways of responding to climate change. We had our own ways before technology, before colonialism, to live with the drought, to live with pandemics, to live with all these difficulties that we are facing. So the government, through various cultural engagements, is working with the traditional leaders to revisit indigenous knowledge systems to sustain ourselves and also to ensure that the people's effects are mitigated technically, traditionally, culturally, and also socially. So in a spake of a moment, that is the kind of response that the government, communities, including the church, is responding to the drought.
Can you give me some examples of traditional indigenous methods that are being rethought?
Absolutely. For instance, we regard the river as a divine place. So a river has to flow naturally. So if people plow along the banks of the river, it begins to silt. So traditionally, they used to use myths, mythology, to restrain people from farming along the banks of a river. River sources or recharge places which acted as catchment areas for water were regarded as divine places where the gods lived, for instance, where our ancestral shrines were. So those places were no-go areas. The reason was to keep the people away from tarnishing those places and making them unclean. That is the concept that our ancestors were giving the people. But scientifically, we know that they were actually protecting the recharge areas for our water systems, the springs, the aquifers, and other places which ensured the smooth flowing of water. Other ways were sustainable cutting down of trees. We rely on the forests for wood, for our energy. We rely on firewood. So cutting down of trees and unproductive and sustainable indiscriminate cutting of trees was prohibited traditionally. So there were certain tree species which were considered sacred, and those trees had to be preserved. But now, with the growing populations, the numbers have grown over the years due to communication, due to intermarriages and migration. Populations have increased. So the demand on our forests for energy, charcoal and firewood increased. So we have to revisit some of these methods of remembering that a tree is a sacred tree and humanity cannot survive if we cut down trees indiscriminately. So that is one basic example I can give you. So there were some community information that was given to disallow or to forbid people to practice careless, to engage in careless environmental management systems.
In your opinion, do you think the Kariba Dam is more good than bad or more bad than good?
The Kariba Dam story is a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword. Its construction was well meant, had good intentions, the objectives were very good for our country. However, maybe they could have listened to the local people also, so that we had an integrated way, which was inclusive. So by going technical, by forcing people out of the dam, maybe brings in stories of trust. There were trust issues, stories of betrayal. So it's a double-edged sword. The dam was well meant, the intentions were good, but maybe The problem came in that the voice of the local people, the owners of the river, maybe were not considered enough. So that would be my response.
What traditions are you bringing back that you had lost? What traditions are you renewing in the traditions of the Tonga people?
From the museum perspective, we have noticed that craft development, the Vatonga people were extremely good potters. They used to mold beautiful pottery. They used to do a lot of beadwork using seeds and fruits from fruits. They used to do a lot of blacksmithing, making blades and spears for warfare or for hunting. Remember that we were hunters and gatherers. The other things was basketry. They make these beautiful baskets which are the flagship of this particular museum. So there are a lot of practices from the crafts point of view. They are gifted craftsmen, excellent cavers. They can carve anything out of wood. They can carve anything out of stone and rock, which makes them excellent artists. And these are some of the things that they express their cultural beliefs. Their indigenous values is expressed. The motifs, the patterns on the baskets, the type of carvings that we make they speak through their art. So the Watongas are gifted craftspeople, and the museum owes its legacy, owes its existence due to the craftsmanship of these great people of Zambia, the Vatonga people.
Is it possible for me to find some of these craft people in Choma area to videotape?
Yes, exactly. We can arrange, the museum can arrange for you to meet 1 or 2 people whom we are working with. We've built their capacities, we're giving them some exposure, we've trained them, we've given them platform to sell their baskets in this museum, and there's no problem for you to access these people in their homes and you see what they are doing. Yes.
I would appreciate that very much.
Yeah, that would be arranged. There's no problem. Would be very happy to connect you with our craftspeople. I'm very optimistic about our future. I just want to appeal to Tongas, to academicians, museum professionals, to ensure that the values of our ancestors are passed on to our children. The world is becoming digital. The coming of artificial intelligence should not take away who we really are. The advent of the internet is kind of diluting a lot of our culture. It's a lot of embedded. All hope is not lost. But for those of us who are working in museums, cultural enthusiasts, parents, every Tonga around the world must find a way of supporting what museums are doing to ensure that posterity does not lose its origins. They must be proud of who we are. Let us embrace technology, but let's not forget who we are as a people. The food we eat, our language, our type of dressing, the way we govern our people. I think we have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful heritage that must be conserved and preserved for our children and our children's children. Inculturation is very, very important. Let us modernize, but let us also hold tight with who and what we really are.